Okay, so I want to piggyback on my last transmission because I could see somebody saying, well, if I'm not communicable and I take colloidal silver or I take elderberry syrup or I take a drug and I'm not communicable and I'm asymptomatic, well, the flu stops with me, right? It actually made me better and it doesn't strengthen or then get passed on to somebody else. But what you did right there, just so you know, is that you actually did a friendly fire upon yourself because you're supposed to be, if you get triggered by a cold or a flu that would cause you to take a home remedy or a drug or a pill or whatever, you have just sustained a weakness that your body couldn't handle that message and you have to release it. You have to allow mucus happen. You have to allow everything happen because that's the way the body is, how it cleanses itself. And yeah, you need to be quarantined. You cannot be out in public when you are releasing that excess message. And so what happens is people are under the impression that, oh, if I take a pill, powder, supplement, or drug or a mucus drying up type of remedy, that I'm not communicable, which means that the flu stops with me. Now you have just caused more damage to yourself because you can't handle that message. It reinfects you, causes more damage to where the body has to go into biochemical triage and steal minerals from other parts of your body to then deal with that specific issue. Okay? And so, no, the person who is in the holistic world, who has dried up their mucus, is no different than somebody taking amoxicillin to deal with their flu or their cold. Okay? So being asymptomatic has two different contexts. One means that you're actually so healthy that you have nothing to trigger you to go get a remedy or a medication. Being asymptomatic in the allopathic holistic world means that you have taken pills, powder, supplements, and drugs and herbs and directed those weapons, which in a way they are, and you're directing them back onto you, thus causing more damage to yourself. Because a body is supposed to release those excess bacteria and programming through mucus. And if you dry up mucus or you stop the body from healing, then you have now done friendly fire to your own body. And so you're taking on the brunt of that message and your body can't handle it. When the body's trying to release something and then you dry it up by taking specific remedies and drugs, you have just committed friendly fire. Good morning, Edith Romero. Okay? So yeah, you're not sharing your germs with somebody else, but you keep reinfecting yourself. And that's no different when somebody does Reiki on somebody that cannot process those negative emotions out of the body or process those toxins out of their lymph nodes. When someone does massage and the person's system is so malfunctioned because they're getting massaged to begin with, and the person is releasing and massaging their lymph nodes and it's not going anywhere. It's not being flushed out of the system properly. Well, that's the same thing with those people who claim to be very healthy because they're taking elderberry syrup and colloidal silver and all of these types of natural remedies. And they think, okay, well, I'm asymptomatic. It means I'm healthy. No, you just pointed the weapons of your destruction or strength, relative to who receives it, onto yourself. But you're already weak. You're already weak. So you should not be taking on the excess pathogens, which is pathogenic to you, because your body can't handle that message. You should not be taking those on yet again. But when you're taking colloidal silver and you're taking all these different holistic remedies, you're essentially pointing those weapons back at yourself, and then you're further degrading yourself. So yeah, I was a little annoyed at one of my friends on Facebook who was taking issue with me promoting the vaccines on a weaker body than a person who's stronger, because they're like, well, I never get sick and I'm around everyone that has a flu, and I see that she's in the holistic world. I see that she's also aging and she promotes holistic remedies. Yeah, so she's basically taking the excess program that her body can't handle and she keeps reinfecting herself. Because as soon as she gets a sign that she has a cold or a flu, instead of letting her body go and process it out, and then she gets rid of the excess programming and she quarantines herself, no, what she does is she poisons herself to stop the healing process, to stop the release of the excess. And then in turn, it's aging her, because the body is very weak and is stealing their mineral reserves. So it's further degrading her integumentary system. And so I had to go and comment on one of her posts, and I did block her because I don't want to deal with someone like that. And I said, hey, you know, it's a little hypocritical that you say you never get sick, but yet you're promoting home remedies. If you're promoting home remedies, then that very fact alone says that you get sick, but how you deal with it is no different than somebody in the allopathic world, in biotech, the prescription drug world. The very fact that you get sick says that your body is weak. And dealing with your sickness with some kind of flower or some kind of herb is no different than somebody taking amoxicillin. It's just in a different form. And so I'm done with the hypocrites out there. There's a reason why I flipped my script. When you read my current book today, I was very anti-vax. You'll see the arguments I put out there. I can argue both sides of the argument, the anti-vax and the pro-vax now. And the reason why I can do pro-vax, because J-juice is like a pro-vax type of mentality. It is a transition. If you are weak, you need a vaccine. And this is for Edith. I know you don't want to promote vaccines, but Edith, there are people who are not doing J-juice. And they have very weak bodies. You think they can withstand the Ebola virus or any other major aggressive virus that's out there? And yes, they'll go through their symptoms. But then people who are anti-vax will then take a holistic remedy and think that they're better than a person who is taking like a flu shot or some other type of drug. We have to understand that if you're not going to promote J-juice and we have weak bodies out there, then yeah, the vaccine would be necessary, because that is a barometer to tell you how exactly you're adapting to your environment. And if you have adverse reactions to that flu vaccine, it means that when you get the flu, you could die, because you don't know the state of that person's body. And we can't assume that a person is not going to die from being exposed in the natural environment. We have to assume that people are weak. And then these vaccines are then what is the barometer. So we know, okay, if you can handle the vaccine, you can handle your environment. No matter what, you're going to have an upset of homeostasis if you have a weak body. And then the whole thing with the J-juice is, when you take the J-juice, you're going to have an upset of homeostasis because your body now is finally healing. Okay? So when you take the J-juice, it's a barometer of where you're at. You're not, people who claim that they're so healthy won't do the J-juice, because that will be a moment of truth. They're not as healthy as they claim to be. And they don't want to look unhealthy when they're going out and transmitting how healthy they are, but they're aging with gray hair and they're balding. And they're trying to now promote health and wellness, but they're decaying as we speak. But the J-juice will let you know how allegedly healthy you are. Okay? So yeah, some people don't want that moment of truth. Some people don't want to be proven wrong because they've adopted a thought process for so many years. And when somebody still wants to stick to the fact that people should die, it justifies why they're staying in their invested little bubble of their holistic world. Because yeah, it's making them money, because ignorance does beget ignorance. Okay? So being non-communicable as far as your flu virus doesn't really mean anything based upon why you're non-communicable, why you're asymptomatic. Because yes, I remember when I first started the J-juice, or when I first started the holistic world, and I went from Ohio to Chicago, and Chicago was colder than Ohio because we were still kind of warm over here. And this is like back in 2015, 2016. And I started feeling a tickle in my throat. I wasn't mucusy, I wasn't all this stuff. I just felt a tickle in my throat, and I knew that was the first sign of getting sick. And so what did I do? I took colloidal silver. Now, I thought that I knocked it out and now I'm so healthy. Oh no. I stopped the body from processing out that pathogen, that message that my body couldn't handle. And then I reinfected myself. So it made me weaker. But I thought I was so healthy because I was able to take colloidal silver and knock out the symptoms. And so being asymptomatic, utilizing colloidal silver wasn't a sign of being healthy. It was a sign that I used a different form of an antibiotic. And I caught it early. No different than when somebody catches their cancer early. Chemotherapy and cannabis will knock it out, or at least knock the programming out, if you catch it early enough. So it doesn't mean that you're healthy. It just means that you caught it early and you utilized some aggressive poison to then stop the symptoms. Okay? But those symptoms happen for a reason. It showed that you cannot handle your universe. It showed that you cannot adapt. But you found ways to poison yourself to stop the programming. And that's exactly what these holistic people do, is they claim they're so healthy because they took colloidal silver or some kind of herb to stop the symptoms. But they really should have let it go through its full stages. They should have just let it go, run its course, get it out, because no matter what, they already took a hit on their life force. And now they're reinfected themselves. So now instead of potentially healing, at least let's say that life force took a hit and then they're communicable now, right? And so they have to be quarantined. And so potentially through that healing process, they could gain back a certain amount of life force. But no, when you actually stop the symptoms with colloidal silver or any of those herbs or antibiotics, you're now double downing on that destruction to your body. Because you should have been able to let that stuff out of your body and then stay quarantined and let it go through its proper stages. And so that's why the holistic community is so like misinformed about healing, because they're still aging, they're still degrading, they're anti-vax, anti-everything, and they don't know their body very well, and they think people should die. Okay, so you know, I wanted to make sure that you guys understood that, because yes, in my earlier transmission, I said, hey, yeah, when you are asymptomatic and you're strong, you're not communicable, which means that the flu bug isn't going to get stronger. However, you directed those guns now at yourself and your body can't handle it, obviously, or you wouldn't have those symptoms to begin with. So yes, you didn't pass on that virus to make it stronger to the next person, but now you've just doubled down on your degradation. So it's better to let it run its course. If any of you who are in the holistic world get sick, stop taking those herbs and those supplements and all those things that are stop the healing process, because you're only making things worse. If you have a tickle in your throat, it means you have a weakness. You got to let it run its course. You take apple cider vinegar, you take all these condensed herbs, you're just harming yourself even more, undermining your body's potential to keep healing. What you should do is do the J juice, but some of you are too afraid to deal with the healing and deal with the physical side of it. So yeah, you'll do the shortcuts until you shortcut yourself out of existence, or you smoke yourself out of existence. And that's huge out there in the holistic world. That's why there's a huge cannabis movement, because people want to anesthetize themselves. Okay. Good morning, Kari. Yes, it's 9:14 over here. So yeah, so being asymptomatic can be can be in two different contexts. And if you're doing J juice and you're asymptomatic, you're right there. You're great. You are so gravy. You are so in the right place. If you're asymptomatic, not on the J juice, and you're taking remedies, then you are degrading. Okay? And making things potentially worse for yourself. So anyways, I just wanted to get that across. All right. So no one tries to mischaracterize or justify that, oh, I'm asymptomatic. But yeah, if you're not on J juice, you're degrading. No matter what. If you're on J juice, you're degrading. And all of your pills, power supplements, and detoxes and colloidal silvers and elderberry syrup and all that stuff is only destroying you even further, because you're not allowing your body to go through its proper processes to really help heal the body. Okay. And so, yeah, so I had to take off that lady off my Facebook because she's like, oh, I never get sick. And she's promoting holistic remedies. I'm like, yeah, you do get sick. You just hide it and cover it up and play that there's a difference between the holistic and the allopathic. It's all the same element, you guys. But, you know, people will want to justify their drugs. You know, people are drug addicts. They want to justify it. Okay. But that doesn't belong on the J juice. That mentality doesn't belong on the J juice. Now, if you're healing and you're doing the J juice and you have a lot of pain and you have to, you know, bring in a little bit of your healing or your drugs because help you manage the pain because it can be very intense, fine, do what you got to do. But remember, you don't want to undermine your healing process. Okay? Sugar, I hear you. So anyways, all right. You guys have a good day. I just want to get that across. That's great, Amkar. You had kale yesterday and waterfall. Good for you. Keep going. All right. Talk to you later. Bye. Sugar.